what we have done or what we have learned in the last session. So we have learned about a method. So what is the first of all method is? A method is a group of statements or set of statements, right, which can be used to perform a specific task within your program. Yeah. So that is what basically we can call it as a method. You can write a method in different ways, right. So you can have a method, normally you can write an instance method, you can write a static method. So based on that you can call the methods basically, right. If it is instance method, you need to call the method basically with the help of class object, and if it is static method you need to call with the help of class name. Right. So these are the two kind of methods we basically are, we basically call in terms of methods in Java. So now what is my intention to learn today's session is, today's session is to learn about a special kind of methods which is presented in your classes, right. So for example, if I say there are the two different methods. Imagine that I have a method called accept name, and the second method name call it as display name, right. So in these two methods, for example, let's say if I call the accept method, it takes your name and store into the variable, and then if I call the display method, it does display your name of a method. Yes. So that is what happened. Okay. So let me first of all show you how to call the method and how to execute the method, and what is the problematic things we gonna face in the methods of Java or else C# or else Python or else C or else C++. Okay. C and C++ have a different story apart from object oriented. So if especially if you consider object oriented programmings like Java and C#, which have a different strategy. Yes. So I need to talk about first of all a method. I am going to show you one of the disadvantages of method, then after that I am going to conclude it to the next level. Alright. So now let me show you the screen once again. Once I will show you the screen, let's say define a class. First of all, import java.lang is a basic package to required in every Java program, and try to import one more package called util, alright, and the name of a scanner class. Now this scanner class, I hope everyone got the idea how to use this scanner class, right. So then what I want to do is I want to write a class. The class name is say MethodExample. Yes. In this class of a method, what I want to write is I want to write two methods. One is a method name called accept name, alright, and the other method I want to write a display name. Alright. What is the purpose of these two methods is, first of all, when I call the accept name method, right, when I call accept name method, what will happen is it need to accept the name and store it into a simple variable. Alright. And then let us say one more method I just want to write, that is something call it as a display method, and display method is basically whatever the name variable have a value, that value will be displayed onto the screen, right. So understood the requirement first of all? Yeah. So once you understand the requirement, what I want to do is I just want to write a simple class method now. So before this I am just removing this part, right. So what I want to do is I just want to define a variable called string. The variable name is a name, right. So first thing is I want to write a method, public void accept name is a method, right. So what is this method has to be written as? I want to write the method name as system.out.println, asking a user to enter your name. So once he is trying to enter the name, you need to have a class object of scanner class object, because you are reading an input from a command window, right. So then what is the input? System.in is the input for this scanner class, right. So what I want to do is I just want to write a name variable, value is your object dot method name is next, right. What is this next method will do? Basically this next method will reads you string value and store it into the variable called name now. So this is the method one. I want to write one more method, that is public, right, say void method name is display name, right. what is this display method has to be do right now is I want to display the name of a particular variable called name. Let us say, or I do one thing, say your name is, right, variable name called name, alright. So, this is how we can write the two methods, right. So, if you want to call these two methods, we need one static method. I hope you understand the meaning of static methods in the last class, right. So, then I do write one variable called main method, and from this main method, first of all I do create an object for the class name is MethodExample, right. Let me create an object for MethodExample. So, object name is C1, say new MethodExample is the name of the class, and write a parenthesis followed by semicolon. This is how you can create an object of a method class. Say C1 dot, what is the first thing is I want to call accept name actually, right. Instead of this I want to call the method called display name. Directly I am calling the display name. So, what will happen, let us find out first of all, right. So, I am directly calling the name because of something called it as display name method. So, actually what is my intention, I need to call first of all accept name method. After accepting the name particular user, then after that I need to go for a display name, right. So, now what I first of all I will do is I will just save this particular program. So, I will just take it into some other drive, let us say D drive. So, now let me go for say Java programs, right, not this one. I will take an say I will take a programs called Java program test, or it is also filled now, say Java training, it is not there anything in this, right. So, now I will just have a name of my class, right, extension of my program is .java. Hope you understand the up to this, right. So, what is the basic intention of this particular program is I have to call the method of accept name, right. Instead of calling an accept name, first of all I am directly calling display name method. This is your display name method. So, once if I am calling this display name method, what is going to happen? Now, let me save this program and open the command prompt first of all. So, once you open the command prompt, shift to the first of all one drive back, and after that one more drive back, right. Right now your control is in C drive. Now, I want to check it for a E drive. So, now let me call into D drive or E drive. Now, it is in D drive now. I just want to check out for the folder to remove, that is something called it as Java training, right. Now, let me check the file first of all. We are looking for the file name called MethodExample.java file. Say we got the file in the same directory, alright. So, now when I am just clear the screen, right. So, now I just want to compile this Java program now. So, what is a program? MethodExample.java is the name of program. I just want to compile this program now. So, once it takes a couple of seconds time to compile your program to check any valid errors or not. We have errors here, that is an error, we have something missed here, that is has to be written in uppercase, alright. Nothing but string as a keyword we have written wrong, alright. So, then see that program is got compiled successfully. Now, there is no errors in our program. The moment, how to say that there is no errors in your program? Once you compile the program, previously we do have only one particular thing, that is MethodExample.java file, right. So, once you compile this, once you get executed, automatically it got generated with one dot class files. Nothing but you need to understand, or the moment when the dot class file is created into the location where your Java file is got stored, right. So, then you need to understand that your program is got compiled successfully, right. So, now let me execute this particular program, Java followed by MethodExample is the name of a file. So, I am not directly calling a display method. So, what is the method value it is displaying directly? It is displaying a value as null. Nothing but there is I have not just see that in this particular program anywhere I have assigned the value for name variable. No, see that display name is a variable or method I am directly calling. Without I am assigning the value to this particular method, then what will happen is automatically it is taking a null value, right. So, just see that here it is giving a null value to the particular user. What is the meaning of this particular null value is, right. So, now So if I'm calling a name, all right, now let me compile, let me execute this particular program and say accept name is another method I just want to call, all right. So the first one. So if I'm calling this method, what is going to happen? Now let me compile this particular program again. All right. Once you compile this program, now you can execute this particular program with the help of Java followed by method name, asking for a name, say APSSDC, right. So now execute this. Now it is giving a name for this, but before I am not calling a accept name method, what is the value it is displaying? Null value. After that, if I am calling an accept name method, what is the value it is displaying? The value whatever I am giving a input, it is giving that particular value. So what happened with this, and who is giving this null value is, right? This null value is given by one of another member of my class, that is here we usually call it as this one is a constructor. Actually it is not a method, it is not the class name. See that, remember that guys, whenever you have a parenthesis is written anything after this particular part, now you need to understand that it is something call it as a methods, right. Whenever you have a parenthesis, see that here also parenthesis, here also parenthesis. Now I am not calling this one as a method now, I am calling this one as a special method, nothing but it is some of the extension part of your methods part. Now it is something called extension of your methods here. So what is this thing call it as? Now let me tell you what is that actually, right. So first of all, this one we can call it as a constructors. Please do remember this, it is something call it as constructors, right. What is this constructors and how to use this constructor? So first of all, we would find out the definition to it, right. We would find out the definition, what is the constructor means, right. Constructor is one of the special member, or constructor is a special method of a class, or special other way you can call it as constructor is a special method of a class which invokes automatically when the class object is created. Right. So what does it mean to say, right? Just understand it very carefully. I am calling as constructor is a special method and belongs to same class, right? As like a method is belongs to the same class, your constructor is also belongs to the same class, and but this will be automatically invokes when the class object is created. Nothing but if you understand this example first of all, if I'm calling any kind of methods of my class, if I want to call any method of my class, I have to call this method explicitly all the time. See that I'm calling a method explicitly here with the help of class object, or sometimes I can call the method explicitly with the help of name of a class name, right. So but what is it saying is, it is not required any explicit calling, it is automatically invoking, it is automatically executing a particular class, or it automatically executing a program without having any part. Nothing but this constructors will be invoked initially, automatically, implicitly by help of creation of object. Please do remember this in this particular example or in this particular syntax, right. So the first one, right. Now let me show you one thing, something with a graphical, right. So now let me write some text here, right. The text is this one, all right. So in which what I want to segregate here, I just want to segregate a few parts here. This one is something, call it as a name of a class, right. This one is your class name, right. And a second part of this will be a object name. Object name in the sense it's a user defined name, right. It is something called as a user defined name, right. This is other one, right. You can write any name whatever you want, that is depends on you, right. And the next one here, this one is a new, is a keyword of a Java which is used to allocate the memory or giving a memory for the object what it is created. What is the object name here? C1 is an object name, right? For this particular object, it required a memory. This new keyword will give you the memory for the object name called a C1 here. So, after this one, what is this one now? It is something call it as, it is not a class name, it is something call it as constructor, right. See that when you talking about a constructor, when I am talking about constructor, so this constructor, it mean to say that here if you observe carefully, the name of my class is same as my constructor name, nothing but there are a few properties of constructor you need to understand carefully here when I am talking about any type of constructors. Now, let me tell you what are the properties you need to remember of this constructor is, okay, alright. Now, please do remember this, it is very important part of your interviews, properties of our constructors, right. Properties of constructor. What is this constructor properties? First one is constructor name is same as a class name, right, the first thing. And second one is constructor does not have any return type, right, any return type, even it does not returns the type called void also, right. So, I'll make you understand it very easily, right, with the help of one more thing. I'll just take it here, okay. I'm going to take it as one more thing, alright. So, our first thing is I'll take one line, center line between these two, alright. On the left side of it, I'll write a method, and the right side here I'll demonstrate you with a constructor. Here I'll write a method, and here how do the properties will be changes? It is something called it as constructor. Right. What is the first thing is, right, say public void method name, I am writing M1, and do write some code between this. So, you need to write some code here, that is some code, whatever you want to write, you can just write the code here, alright. So, then what happened with this constructor is, first thing is, as I told you, first it is belongs to one of the members of a class, let us say constructor, right. Now, let me say example is my class name, right. So, what is the first property I am talking about? Constructor name as the class name, right, it is same as my class name. Imagine that example is my class name, and constructor does not have any return type, nothing but even void also you have to remove it. And what you need to write? You just need to write an access specifier, and you need to write the name of a constructor. Name of the constructor is same as your class name. Now, let me imagine that your class name is something, say class example is the name of my class, right. Okay. So, do understand it very carefully, right. See that here name of my class is same as my constructor. Here method has to be have a return type, constructor does not have a return type. Most of the constructors return type will be a public, yes, understand. So, these are the few properties you need to remember about constructors, yes, right. So, now what I want to do is, I am going to show you one more example. Now, let me take one more example which has to be written with one method and one constructor, right. Say let us say first import java dot long dat star and say import java dot, right. So, util dot scan a class, right. First thing is you have a import dot java dot scan a class and say class name is, I want to write the class name is let us say some class name xyz or abc, whatever it is, write the class name. Right, say I am writing a name of the class as example 1. right. Here in this particular class, first of all I try to write a method, just general method. So, method name I can write anything, right. So, let us say method name is M1, right. So, then what I will do is system.out.println, right. Write a name of a method is say I am a method. So, when I say a method, what I need to basically need to remember is, when I say a method, basically what I need to remember is I will go to public static void a main string arguments. Okay. Now, what I want to do is I just want to create an object for a example1 class, say example1, say object name is say CR1, say C2, right. New example1 is my name of a class, right. So, first thing is, if I want to call this particular method, so what I want to do is, it's pretty simple for me. I will write a name of my class and I have to write the method name. So, here this is your calling of method. So, the calling of method, because it's an instance method, right. When I say instance method, always instance method has to be called with the help of class object. Here this is my class object, yes. With the help of my class object, I am calling a instance method. If it is static method, you have to call the name with the class name, right. You have to call the method of in static with the help of class name. That is what we have already learned in the last session, right. So, now I will show you with just example between a method and constructor. Now, let me save this particular program now, right. Now, let me save the program, and extension of this program is .java, make it as all files. You have already several files over there. Now, open your command prompt again, right. So, now first thing is I do want to compile my Java program. So, what is the name of my program is example1.java is the name of my program is. Now, let me compile this program first of all. So, it is compiled successfully, then I can say example1, all right. So, this is my another method. Now, I'll just call this particular method. What is method? It's showing that I am a method. Now, I am calling a method explicitly, right. So, I do invoke one more member in my same class, which is I am calling as a constructor now, right. The constructor name as same as a class name. By default, constructor access specifier supposed to be public, nothing but that has to be visible, right. Now, this is my constructor. This is my constructor, name of my class is same as my constructor name, it does not have any return type here, very important property, and the by default every constructor is a public constructor. So, that I am specifying as public now, right. So, now let me say that system dot out dot println, right. So, I am a constructor, right. So, I am a constructor, right. So, constructor, see that anything is required to call the constructor? No, because why I am telling you why it is not here. Here when I am creating an object here, I am creating an object for the class name is what? Example class. As the moment when I am creating an object for example class, automatically this has to be invoked. Yes, am I very clear what I am trying to talk about? Let me repeat the sentence again first of all, right. So, what is the sentence I am trying to do is, whenever I am creating an object for the class name of example1, if there is any constructor is involved in this particular program, automatically that constructor has to be called. Now, let me compile this particular program now, right. Now, compile successfully, then execute this program. See that it just you need to understand with this example output right now. See that I am calling as a constructor, nothing but I am a constructor, I am a method. So, when I say a method, this one, this is a syntax is calling a method now, and this is a syntax is calling a constructor. Yes or no? So, here nothing but to call the constructor, it is pretty simple. Instead of going for calling explicitly, we can call any constructor implicitly as the moment when you are creating an object for that particular classes. This is very important part of your constructors. Now, so instead of right now, what I'll do is I'll show you the example which we have already done, right, with the name to accept it, right. So I'll do replace one of the method here. Say import java.lang.star import java.util.scanner class, right. Say give me a class name as, or let me give a class name as example2. Give a name of the classes. Here what I do is I'll do define a variable called a string, that is name variable, right. So for example, previously I used to write accept method in the previous example. Just you need to understand this example first of all. In this example, what I am trying to call here, I am trying to call the first thing accept name method. This is one of the method I want to replace here. So how do I replace here? First of all, I am creating an object for scanner class. Say object is equals to new scanner class, right. So when the moment when you creating an object for this scanner class, what happened now? Now what I'll do is that input for this will be a system.in is the name of input, right. So first thing is what I'll do is I'll just take a simple constructor, say example2, right. Within the constructor I'll do one thing, I'll just say that system dot out dot println, say enter your name, right, asking a user to enter your name. The moment you can say that name is equals to object dot, what is the method I need to use? Next method, right. The next method is basically capable of calling the string, I mean reading the string value now. So once you read the string value, right, say public void, I am just calling the display name as it is, say display, I'll do one thing system dot out dot println, say what I do is I'll print your name, your name is, right, say it's name, right. So now once I call this particular thing, right, so first thing is I'll do one thing, I'll try to call the static method of my class, I'll open and I'll close this particular class, right. Now what I want to do is I just want to create an object for the class. What is the class name? Example2, right. Example2 is my class name. I just want to create an object to it, right. Say object, or object name I'm writing as C1 or C2 or something like, you can write it whatever, that is your user defined name. You can write anything whatever you want, right. Okay. So now as the name of my class is C1, right. So now let's say C1 dot, right, directly I'm calling a display method as like previously how I'm calling the display method, same I'm calling the name of a method called display method. So what will happen previously and what is happened now, just understand it carefully. Now let me save this particular program, right. Extension of my program is .java, right. Now let me save this particular program. Once you save this particular program and go to command prompt, check out for the file what you are looking for. I'm looking for the file name called example2.java here, right. So this Java program, I just want to first of all I want to compile this particular program. Say Java C example2, right. Just say example2.java is a name of class. Just compile this class first of all. So then execute this particular class now. Java C followed by example2. So directly asking for the name, say APSSDC, enter it. So automatically displaying your particular name. Yes, understand right now. With this example, you have to understand the base difference between a method and a constructor. Yes. Now, what is the meaning and how to do the next level? Okay. Now, let me understand carefully. Let me tell you very easily. Now, let me tell you what is actually this constructor will do. The constructors used in a class specifically to initialize the data members of a class. The major importance is, right. So, as we are using a methods, right, methods are using for performing a specific task within your program. So, what is a method will do? Method will divide your complex problems into small problems, nothing but smaller events, so that when you going to call it, it becomes very simple and you can do it very easily. But what is the basic importance of constructors in a class? The basic importance of constructors in a class is to make a data members of a class has to be for example, if I am talking about specifically I am talking about constructors. Constructors is basically used for to initialize the data members of any class, right. Here also you can just see that whenever I am directly calling an object name, automatically it is calling a constructor within this part, right. As soon as the constructor is invoked, the name variable is initialized. The moment when the name variable is initialized, your data members of a class is initialized, then automatically you can display the name. So, that is the reason you need to understand a few important points. This is the properties of constructor, and then what is the uses of constructor, right. Uses of constructors, what is the use of these constructors, and these constructors, very important point you need to remember, guys, please, very important. These constructors are used to initialize, nothing but what you can call it as assigning, better thing, right. Assign the values or initializing the data members of a class, right. So, this is how you can have a constructors, right. And what are the constructors, what are the types of constructors here? Say types of constructors. So, what are the types of constructors we have and how to use these constructors? We have two different type of constructors. One is instance constructors and second one is non-instance constructors, right. And this non-instance constructors, you can also call it as a static. Nothing but this constructor, it always appears with a static keyword. Yes. So, instance, first thing is you have a default constructors. So, this default you may create 1.1, you may create by user, say user defined constructors, and the second one is sometimes if you are not created, that system will create for this, that is system defined constructors, right. And the second one is parameterized constructor, right. So, now first thing is what is the meaning of system constructor here first of all. So, now let me understand first user defined constructor. Okay, I'll show you one more program. What is the basic intention of user defined constructors, right. Say import java dot lang dot star, say import java dot util dot scanner class, say class, say the name of a class you can say as example3, right. And within this class, right. So, I'll just define a simple integer variable here, right. So, what is the value I want to construct here is, okay, alright. So, I'll just want to say constructor is example3. So, I'll do one thing, I'll write a variable value as 100, say public, say void display, right. So, in general understand first of all, in general you need some right side some code here, right. So, then what happen is the moment as soon as if I am creating an object for this constructor, as soon as if I am creating an object for this constructor or class, what will happen is every time this variable value is initialized, nothing but the value will never changes, because as you are defined the value of this constructor within your class here, right. So, this is how we can make normally constructor, nothing but the value which never changes, any number of objects you can create, it will be the same, right. So, that is what we use a defined constructor. If a constructor is not presented in your class, previously it is given a value called null, that is something called system defined constructors, right. So, let me summarize what we have learned today. So, I am just want to conclude for the today's session, right. What we have learned? First of all, we have learned about a different kind of constructors. First thing is we have learned constructor and what are the properties of constructor and what is the how to call the constructor and how to importance of the constructor in Java program, right. Thank you so much for listening. Have a great day. By the way, I am Anil Kumar, the trainer of APSSDC.